Ladies and gents, boys and girls, happy Tuesday, October the 31st, 2023, aka Halloween. Happy Halloween to each and every single one of you. Appreciate you all tuning in here on this Tuesday, the final day in the month of October. I see Sir Big Cock, Bruin Nation, Gavin, Bruce, John Edward, Lucas, Ethan K, Jacob, what's going on? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. Guys, got a ton to get into, like I mentioned, a ton to discuss, and I hope you're all enjoying your Tuesday thus far. As I mentioned, guys, in case you missed it, yours truly going to be speaking at the Growth Summit entrepreneurial event in Columbia, South Carolina on Thursday and Friday. Very excited for that. Looking forward to getting down to Columbia for the event. And due to that, there will be no TDC on Thursday or Friday. So with that being said, we're sort of just moving everything up. We're still hitting all the content we normally hit. Unfortunately, no Q&A session like we normally have on Fridays for that first hour, but everything from position unit comparison to our drive around the SEC to talking top storylines to talking my prediction for South Carolina's game and everything in between. We will have that over the next 2 days. So, guys, today we'll talk about the Jacksonville State roster, how it compares to South Carolina in our position unit comparison, and also do our drive around the SEC game previews, and predictions here on this Tuesday, guys. It's a jam-packed slate of SEC football. Really excited for it. Of course, guys, at the end of the show, final 30 minutes or so, we'll take your questions, your comments, and your voicemails as we look ahead to this weekend, a jam-packed slate of games. Like I mentioned, of course, Gamecocks will do battle at Willie B at noon, but some really intriguing games this weekend. Florida, Arkansas, Georgia, Missouri, and of course the big one, LSU and Alabama on late Saturday night. Cannot wait for it. Also, guys, kicking off the show, we got our good friend JC Shurburtt of the Big Spur of Inside the Gamecocks. We'll get into that in just a second. But again, want to say thank you all so much for tuning in. Truly, guys, TSUS would not be what it is, what it's becoming without your love and support. I see a lot of you in the chat, by the way, commenting about the Dabo Swinney thing, which maybe I should have led the show off with that, because whether folks like it or not, that's a talking point even in Gamecock Nation. It's a national storyline. So maybe we'll dive into that at some point in this show as well. And I know that John Edward, based off the conversation I see him having, he won't be a fan of what I have to say, because I didn't have a problem with Dabo Swinney's reaction. I mean, a man can only take so much. And I mean, listen, I'm even someone that we have our chatter on social media, we have our conversations, and you're in that position, and it's better to ignore it. But when you're sitting there and you got somebody that calls in and they are telling you straight to your face, you're not worth the money you earn, you're this, you're that, you stink. I don't blame the human Dabo Swinney having a human reaction. I just don't. I just flat out don't. And so, yeah, we can talk about that more, guys, later, later in the show. But, yeah, that took college football and certainly social media by storm late last night. So we'll definitely discuss that, dive into it, guys. But like I mentioned, in the meantime, he joins us every Tuesday. We're going to kick off the show with our good friend, JC Shurburtt of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur. We talk all things Texas A&M, of course, look ahead of this weekend's game against JSU, and, of course, the details of all of that. Really exciting stuff, guys. So sit back, relax, enjoy this conversation with our good friend, JC Shurburtt of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur. All right, guys, he joins us every single Tuesday to help us break down all things Gamecocks. He's JC Shurburtt of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur. JC, appreciate you taking the time once again, my friend. How are you?
Great. Hey, another Tuesday, boy. These fly by fast. It seems like yesterday we were talking about the opener, and now here we are in November. With the Gamecocks kind of behind the eight ball. But I tell everybody, all off season right before the season starts. Savor it because it goes
Mm.
in the blink of an eye. It's like you can't sleep the night before the opener. You can't sleep that week. That week goes so slow, and then all of a sudden you're at Christmas time and it's gone. So savor them. Savor these last 4 games. It would be my big message today.
Well said. Well, JC, we look back on the weekend that was. South Carolina falls to the Texas A&M Aggies by a final score of 30-17. And JC, maybe not a result that was surprising necessarily, especially when you factor in that the Gamecocks were 2 touchdown underdogs. But even with that, it's how it unfolds. And JC, obviously, when you watch it take place, there's things that happen in the game. And what's so frustrating, JC, for me is I watched that game on Saturday. Texas A&M, they've undoubtedly got talent, but I don't think they're world beaters. Like, I don't think they're a great team. Their offense was really boring. They've got their own issues on the offensive line. There were plays to be made, and there were some plays made in regards to the Gamecocks offensive side of things, but just could not do enough and could not take advantage. What did you see on Saturday? Do you feel the same? Like I said, I don't leave that feeling like Texas A&M was just worlds better than South Carolina or was some elite football team. The Gamecocks, just for whatever reason right now, did not have the horses to take advantage of a really gettable A&M squad.
Yeah, I mean, I think if South Carolina were completely healthy, it's probably a game that you just shake your head at and go, God, they blew it. They blew a golden opportunity. I don't know that it was realistic they were going to go in there and win. Like you said, hey, it was I would call them very pedestrian, especially on offense, which surprises me because Bobby Petrino, even last year at Missouri State, man, he lit up Arkansas in the first half, was back to being Bobby Petrino. And I do give them credit for adjusting because Clayton White sort of threw a monkey wrench at him, right, so to speak, in the first half with that 3-man front and the multiple linebacker sets. They A&M had trouble blocking the Gamecocks, right? And I don't think we've had many teams that have you could say that about this season. But they adjusted. I don't think the offense helped, but with a patchwork offensive line like that, and lo and behold, here's another injury. Trey Jones, he had to join the club, right? I mean, God bless. Against that front, which their front is elite. I think that's the thing with A&M. I don't want to call them a one-trick pony because they do have talent elsewhere. But that, if you look at one spot on that roster that has been consistently a matchup nightmare with everybody on the schedule, it's been that defensive front. Whether that's taking Tennessee's passing game down. I know the Vols ran the ball well in that game or whether it's holding Alabama to 32 rushing yards in that football game. A&M's front has shown up, and they did against the Gamecocks. I thought that, early on, the Gamecocks did a pretty good job, scheming and getting a drive going. I think Mario Anderson, I think the Gamecocks are on to something with him, man. I really think that guy is a very good running back, probably better than we think. Because there's not a lot of room to run, and he just runs like there's no tomorrow. And that's half the game, right? I think when you look at South Carolina's running backs in recent years, breaking tackles has not necessarily been a specialty of some of these guys. Some of them did it every now and then. Some of them would go. I mean, but not Mario Anderson, man. He's running through arm tackle. But you better square him up if you're going to get him on the ground. I just thought, for a moment in the game, Carolina fell apart. Offense wasn't helping. The intentional grant. Spencer did not have his best game. Let's just be honest there. It's hard to get after him and be totally critical of him. But did have his best game. The intentional groundings were tough. I get it. You're trying to throw it away, not take a sack, whatever. But like that second quarter, and you're sitting there watching the clock run down, Chris. A&M didn't really even score till 8 minutes to go in the second quarter, something like that. And then they score again, and then you're like, well, they're going to get out of here with 14-7 and get the ball. And then Anais Smith made what I call a recruiting play. He's a great player, okay? And so he made a great play and then made more great plays, making everybody miss to get to the end zone. And boom, it's 21-7. Well, second half, it's kind of just back and forth like it was for the rest of the game. And Carolina at the end of the day did not have enough firepower I think offensively, Xavier Legette played, but man, he wasn't himself. Not a lot, just didn't have enough playmakers, didn't have enough on the line of scrimmage offensively to realistically overcome that. There are no moral victories. I didn't take this wasn't even one where, unlike the Georgia game, where it's like, well, that team's just killed Carolina the last couple of years, and to have them down and play them like that shows progress. I don't know they showed any kind of progress or anything. It's kind of the same old, where they're just too undermanned. I mean, look, nobody's going to accuse this team of not playing hard. Nobody's going to accuse them of mailing it in. I saw none of that Saturday. But sometimes you play as hard as you can, and you're just limited, and the other guys are just better. And that's what happened Saturday. So, uh, if it weren't for that second quarter where they kind of let things go, who knows? We may be talking about an upset right now, because certainly I think you're right about A&M. But as it stands, it's 2-6, and they got to grind to the Gasparilla. I think the schedule. If people don't want to hear this, they think, oh, it's an excuse or whatever. Chris, I can't remember a season where South Carolina, going into November, like past Halloween, has only played 3 home games the whole year, and only 2 SEC home games. And only 1 in like a month. I mean, that was Florida. So that's when you go on the road, it's tough in this league. It's tough. I mean, and to have all the issues they've had, I don't know that you could expect much more, other than winning the Florida game, which of course was very disappointing. But you got 4 at home. Carolina matches up really well with all those teams. I think probably better than most of the other teams on their schedule, the exception of Florida and Furman and Mississippi State. So you go shoot your shot, man. I mean, the season's not over. You win those last 4, sneak into a bowl. You're sitting on 6-7, 7-6 season, 3 straight bowl trips. People are feeling good because you beat Clemson 2 years in a row, which is a big deal at this university. And everybody's feeling good again. But right now, I don't expect anybody to feel good.
JC, the Gamecocks defense was, I feel like, as disrupted as they've been all season. And yes, I know the bar is in hell, right? You still surrender 30 points. It still wasn't some stellar performance. But do you feel more encouraged about the Gamecocks defense moving forward because of what you saw? Or do you write that off as Texas A&M is sort of inept on the offensive side?
Well, I look at it, and I think there's positives and negatives. I mean, to take away from the game, I mean, the negative obviously is that they gave up 30 points and lost the football game and had breakdowns of the secondary again. I think that the positive part of it is, and I respect, I don't care how much a coach is struggling, man. I respect coaches that are like, all right, we're going to try something different this week because things just aren't, the definition of insanity, they say, is doing the same thing over and over. I respect Clayton White for coming out in this funky looking defense. Hey, it worked for a while until they adjusted, right? And using more 3-man front. Jerron Willis gets out there and plays, Bam Martin Scott. And what those guys are, Chris, those guys are kind of bigger outside linebacker types. They're really suited for like a 3-4 at outside backer. What Willis and Bam Martin Scott, they have those body types. And that, I think, freed up guys like Tonka Hemingway and TJ Sanders and Brian Thomas Jr. and, some of the interior guys to get in there and make plays. Tyree Johnson played his best game as a Gamecock. And probably here's why. Tyreek is more of a 3-4 end than a 4-3 end, right? If that makes any sense. Guys like with his body type tend to thrive more in the 3-4 because those ends in that system, you got a nose tackle, and then the 2 guys beside him are technically ends. And so playing that spot, I think that's more his game. I think that's more Tonka's game. So we'll see if we see more of that. That system isn't always the best, especially, outside of Nick Barrett, you don't really have a big nose tackle. So, is it realistic to go out there and switch it up and do that all the time? I don't know, but I like the package and I like the approach. And then it was the same old story. You give up 21 and look, 20, they had drives of 55 and 48 yards. So the special teams and offense did not help the defense. It wasn't like Florida game last year where Florida's going 80 yards every single time or whatever. So in fairness, it was a short field, but same old story. You give up 20 plus in the first half, and then you just don't have the firepower to come back. But you come back the second, and A&M did not have a second half touchdown, and so the defense did some things right, obviously. But that whole do well in the second half thing after they've got 20 on the board, I think I'm kind of done talking about that because that happens over and over. But first half, first quarter, I thought they came out and did some nice things. The defense actually, overall, if you look at the totality of the game, it was just that last 7 minutes of the second quarter, man. It just fell apart for that little bit. Regained it and, just didn't have the offensive firepower to get back into it.
JC, one of the other bright spots from this loss on Saturday, the involvement of Nicholas Harbor. It continues to increase, 6 catches for 59 yards, 9.8 yards per catch. And I thought, it was a great job by him to bounce back from that early drop in the ball game, which served. It was a critical drop at the moment. You saw Spencer Rattler, Shane Beamer, others uplifting him on the sidelines. He goes on to have a really, really good game. I've been saying this for a few weeks now, JC, but especially with games like Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt upcoming, this 4-game home stretch, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we see Nick Harbor have a breakout game. I'm talking over 100 yards, maybe a score or two. It feels like that could be coming in the next week or two as his role continues. What are you seeing from him as he continues to evolve at the wide receiver position, if you will?
I really like what I see, and I'll tell you why. I like, all these years of evaluating and sort of watching the development process. I think there's basic fundamentals when you're learning a new position you have to master. At receiver, I think the basic fundamental that you have to master is catching the daggone ball, right? And I know he had the drop, but I think most people would have expected a lot more drops from Nick, to be honest, making that, because a lot of times guys will get the route running. They got the athleticism, they got the way to make the play on the ball, and they just can't make the catch. And it's mental. And the mental growth process is something you really watch when you're talking about young players, especially one learning a new position. So that mental part of it, the focus on catching it, he does not have naturally great hands. It is all focus. And Beamer talking about, the other day about how Nick, before practice, after practice, he's taking reps. The last guy to do that was Alshon Jeffrey at South Carolina. Now, Alshon came in as a receiver. He had a little bit more going for him to begin with as far as experience at the position. But you saw how Alshon, through his work, took a lot of natural ability and became a star, not only at South Carolina, but in the NFL. I mean, you put Alshon on a clock, he's probably running 4.8, something like that. And anybody catch him in the Super Bowl? And they're like, no, Alshon. And it was because of his work, And so seeing that and knowing that right now, as you evaluate Nick Harbor through these 8 games, knowing he is a reliable catcher of the football, you have to think the next step is taking those gifts, that speed, that athleticism, the big body, breaking tackles, pulling away, all the stuff after the catch that we've all kind of figured he could do for a while. So turn on the jets, whatever. But I've just been impressed with the fact. And look, Spencer Rattler is he's putting it right there where it's hard to not catch it, right? But just the fact that, Nick bounced back from that, caught everything. He's caught everything just about the whole year. Yeah, of course, you do have the one drop, but I think the rest of it's coming. So I wouldn't disagree with you and think that you could just kind of feel that a big time stat stuffing performance maybe just around the corner for him.
JC, I feel like we can't talk about this game and move off this game without mentioning the injuries. What do you make of all the injuries, and what do you think Shane Beamer must do over the course of the offseason in regards to reevaluating what they're doing in strength and conditioning? And I mean, you hate to pin it all on Luke Day, but also it's just not going to fly with people to say, well, it's just bad luck, right? I think at minimum, you have to look at what you're doing and say, okay, is there anything that we could be doing to lessen or limit these injuries? I mean, because and if it is bad luck, my goodness, I don't know who's controlling the voodoo doll, because I think it was like 3 straight plays in College Station. A different Gamecock went down with some sort of injury? I mean, do you just write it off as it's a lost season with terrible luck, or do you think there's something there that maybe needs to be looked at and addressed?
This has been going on for too long, and even before Shane got here, to make me think that it's just been luck. I mean,
It's a very Muschampish type of season from the injury standpoint, no doubt.
yeah, I don't think the football gods hate South Carolina that bad, right? I think they hate them, but don't hate them that bad. Um, and I don't know what it is, Chris. I'm not. I can't. I'm not smart. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I'm not smart enough to figure that out because, I'm not a medical person. I'm not a trainer. I would look at everything from training to nutrition. Um, I wouldn't imagine there's an issue with nutrition because South Carolina. All I hear about is how great the program is. I know they got a new director of nutrition, training program, medical staff, practice habits, off-season strength and conditioning. Just look at the whole big picture and dig in. I don't know, Chris. If you look at the injuries, I mean, gosh, we're sitting here in basketball season, and Murray Boyles has already got an illness, and he's sick. I don't know that it's an injury with him, but you got BJ Mack nursing an injury. Is it? I mean, I don't want to open a can of worms here. I would go study the rates of injuries for different types of cleats. I don't want to open that up because everybody's going to get mad. I mean, in other words, are Notre Dame and Texas Tech and Maryland having the same kind of injury issues with feet and stuff that South Carolina is? And I think people know what I'm getting at there. I would look at, like I said, the medical staff, and if I'm Ray Tanner, Chance Miller, and the leadership, because it's been baseball, even women's basketball had a bad injury last year. I'm looking at just making sure, and the answer may be yes. The answer may be yes, that everything that can be done from a preventative standpoint across the board in this athletic department is being done. And like I said, the answer may be yes. Or it may be as easy as, well, maybe you need to invest in some certain areas a little more, maybe not. Are they doing everything they can from an institutional standpoint to keep these guys healthy? I will say, in general, in football especially, South Carolina's never had depth. I mean, if South Carolina, as good of a coach as Steve Spurrier was, if they'd had these type of injuries on those really good teams that we're all about to honor this weekend, would have been much better. I mean, because you look at those depth charts and see who was playing behind some of the stars, you'd have been like, "Ooh, that's a big drop off." And to build depth, it takes a ton of recruiting. I mean, most schools do not have depth anymore. And so, is it realistic that you could solve the injury issue through recruiting and just live with all these guys out? No. And certainly on the offensive line, man, you can't. This is abnormal. This doesn't happen every year. I mean, this is 11. It's freaking ridiculous. But I just think that as far as how to solve it, if there is a solution, you got to go hunting for it. You got to evaluate everything with a fine-tooth comb, and you got to make sure you're doing everything you can, institutionally, coaching-wise, program-wise, whatever it may be, to make sure you're doing all that you can to keep these guys healthy.
JC, as we close out the month of October and look towards November, 4 straight home games await South Carolina, beginning with this one against Jacksonville State, a noon kick on ESPNU, excuse me, at Williams-Brice Stadium. Gamecocks and Gamecocks first ever meeting between these two. And JC, I don't know if my full doom and gloom has set in or what have you, but I'm expecting an absolute fight. Rich Rodriguez comes in. They got a 7th-year quarterback in Zion Webb, fantastic running back. When you look at JSU, what do you see? 7-2, I believe 5-1 in their conference. This is a quality squad, and they'll come in expecting to win.
Yeah, their offense is scary. I mean, Rich Rod hadn't forgotten how to coach, and it's a scheme, sort of like when you were coaching against the late, great Mike Leach. Rich Rod is the zone read in its purest form. A lot of people have adapted and done other forms of like the zone read option, whatever. But this is dual threat guy, going to zone read you to death, going to quarterback keep. quarterback runs a whole lot. This offense still works, Chris. I mean, when his 1 year at Ole Miss, when he was the OC, John Reese Plumlee, I remember him running all over Alabama one day. So you have to be disciplined. You can't fall for the eye candy. You've got to have a specific plan to stop them and slow them down, given their style of play. It's not necessarily like facing the service academy because you're not dealing with the chop blocks and all that. But you do have to be disciplined against this bunch. And so they present quite a challenge, I think, offensively. The good news is their defense isn't really that good, even for their level. They've had trouble stopping people all year. So you have to think South Carolina, and this is when you face a team like this, if you're South Carolina, you just got to score. Keep scoring. Score. And then play discipline on defense and good things will happen. But it is a scary game. Jacksonville State, I'm old enough to remember when they went to Ole Miss in the season opener as an FCS school and beat Houston Nuts team a few years back. I mean, I think they scared the bejesus out of Arkansas a couple of years ago. They are a tough football team, specifically with the Rich Rod style of offense, which does present a unique challenge. So South Carolina's going to have to go out there and play hard and get the crowd behind them and score points. And if they do that, they'll be okay. If not, it's another one of those losses like App State, Citadel. And those are, I said on the Big Spur this week, those are usually the signs that things have kind of hit rock bottom, like a catastrophic year around here. When you have those just, my God, how did that happen? Type of losses. So you want to avoid that really the next 2 weeks if you're South Carolina.
Yeah, 211.1 rushing yards per game. As I mentioned, guys, Zion Webb is a big part of that. I was actually looking at JC last week against Florida Atlantic, FIU actually. 20 carries for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns for Webb. Again, he's not lethal throwing the football, but the Gamecocks definitely have to account for that quarterback running game on the defensive side. Like you mentioned, they are susceptible to the pass. So you would think Spencer Rattler and company should be able to have a big day. And JC, that leads me to this because you look at a game like this. South Carolina's lost 4 in a row. So I think a lot of the angst and the worry when it comes to this game is not that JSU is some world beater or that you don't have more talent. It's because of what South Carolina has or has not done over the last month. And JC, I'll be honest with you, I don't really remember what it feels like to win a ball game. Mississippi State feels like forever ago at this point. But this game to me is all about South Carolina. Like, what do you specifically need to see from the Gamecocks offensively, defensively? Because realistically, the schedule does set up to make a run here into the year and finish 6-6. And you've got Jacksonville State, then you kind of ramp up a little bit more with Vandy. Then you ramp up a little bit more with Kentucky, and then you've got the rivalry game. So, but the bottom line is this: you can't win all 4 in a row until you win this one. So what do you need to see from South Carolina to not just win, but I think it's important to build some momentum in this game as well.
Absolutely. I think, they need to be on offense like that, like they have been every home game this year. No sputters, no stupid turnovers. And they've been pretty good about that, Chris, at home with Rattler. And then, Mario Anderson's really coming into his own. Like I mentioned earlier, I think he could have a big day against these guys. You can stay balanced and put a lot of points on the board. That's what you need to do because inevitably at some point, Rich Rod's a good enough coach. They're going to bust one on you or they're going to catch you and, crashing down. And he's going to pull it and run, or they're going to catch you trying to scheme up for the run, and they're going to throw it over you to the top of you. Those types of things are going to happen. But excuse me. But I think you need to put points on the board. That's my mantra for this week. It doesn't matter if you give up some things here and there defensively. Put points on the board. Hopefully, it's a lot like the Furman game without the nip and tuck first quarter. And you can go play Lenore Sellers or whoever else and empty the bench and have a nice day, and that gets everybody feeling better, rejuvenated. Then Vandy comes in. Obviously, they're struggling mightily. And these 2 games could be get-right games. I don't think I don't think you're looking at a situation like last year where these guys are as bad as Charlotte or SC State, or that don't match up as well. But I think these could be those get right games. And if you remember last year, South Carolina, after getting annihilated by Georgia, they bounced back. They beat Charlotte. They beat SC State, and then all of a sudden they beat Kentucky, and then A&M, and they had won 4 in a row. So that's and then all these are at home too. I mean, South Carolina's been a much better football team, especially offensively, at home this year. So, I want to see them put points on the board this weekend. That's the most important thing to me, because I do think inevitably JSU will, score some points, and there will be some anxious moments in that regard.
JC Shurburtt of Inside the Gamecocks, the Big Spur. JC, one last thing, and I'll get you out of here. I know I'm looking way too far ahead, but as the weeks pass, I continue to be more and more and more fascinated by football in the Palmetto State this year and what the South Carolina Clemson game is going to look like. Tigers suffer another loss. And when's the last time, JC, we entered the month of November and we're talking about Clemson and bowl eligibility? And that realistically, that game at the end of the year might be for bowl eligibility for both sides. I mean, it's again, I'm looking way too far ahead, but it's just it's hard not to and just think that game already has so much riding on it. But it's just this year it's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So I don't know. It's just a weird year.
08, 09 for Carolina. I'm trying to think. 07 probably cost them a bowl. They lost on the last second field goal. Shoot, man. Carolina, I don't think's entered the game with bowl eligibility on the line and lost since then. And they were eligible. They didn't have enough spots. They needed to get 7 wins. Right? 08, Dabo's interim year, where I think had Clemson lost that game, they would not have gotten to the Gator Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they had an FCS win that didn't count or something like that, or if that team finished. I don't remember what exactly the situation was there, but it's just the Tommy Bowden, Lou Holtz early 2000s matchup again. If that happens, where it's that's what's on the line basically, and quite frankly, those games were kind of fun because there wasn't much else to play for. That was before Spurrier's run. It was before Dabo's run. Hopefully the fan base is still both, kind of relish beating each other again. And it becomes, everything kind of like, I always say that the Egg Bowl is one of the most underrated rivalries because they really rarely are playing for a division title or anything on the line or anything. It's just, that's it in the state of Mississippi. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with occasionally in South Carolina, that being the season. And for South Carolina, if you win these next 3, that is a season because you don't get to play again if you lose it. I don't know what Clemson's going to do these next 3 games. I could see them win them all 3, quite frankly, and then losing in Columbia. I could see them. I don't know. Could is Georgia Tech back enough to where they can go in there and beat them? I have no idea what to think. I know they got 3 home games though before they come to Columbia too, and their backs are against the wall. So we'll see what happens. But it certainly has not been the season that either program expected, and so they'll both probably try to salvage it with a win over the other one here in a few weeks.
Can't wait for that. JC Shurburtt again of the Big Spur Inside the Gamecocks. I'll be joining Inside the Gamecocks tomorrow, Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Always a pleasure. JC, appreciate you taking the time, man. This is always a ton of fun.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Have a good one, bud.
Okay, that was our good friend JC Shurburtt of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur. And as you just heard me say, guys, I will actually be on Inside the Gamecocks tomorrow instead of Thursday because, of course, as I've mentioned a couple of times, we have the Growth Summit taking place in Columbia, South Carolina. So Thursday, Friday, all day long, I will be slammed. So we have moved up my segment on their show tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can check me out there. Guys, we're going to jump into A quick break on the other side. We'll get into our position comparison. We'll talk SEC game previews and predictions. And also, we're going to kick off the segment. We're going to talk this Dabo Swinney stuff. My full thoughts, reaction to the rant that Clemson's head coach went on Tyler from Spartanburg. A fun conversation upcoming, guys. All that and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose, while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Watch your Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Tuesday, October the 31st, 2023. Halloween, and happy Halloween to each and every single one of you. The final day in the month of October. And I'm sure many of you are wondering, Chris, what are you dressed up as for Halloween? Where's your Halloween costume? Guys, I'm wearing it. I'm dressed up as a loser. Too much, too soon. I don't know. Maybe that one won't land with Gamecock Nation. That's how I feel, at least. That's my Halloween costume. I'm dressed up as a loser this season. I am dressed up as a finding some joyer. Find some joy, right? DeCabrion Joyner. Listen to this quote. Listen to this quote from DeCabrion Joyner. Listen to this. Dak Joyner said, I told our guys this morning, despite our record, find some joy. We've got 4 more games together. We have 3 more Tuesday practices after today. Time is coming to an end after today. Enjoy being together. I get what he's saying. My only thing is there's no joy in losing, my guy. There's no joy in losing. So hard for many of us to find joy right now, but it is what it is. Guys, that being said, like I mentioned, we're turning the page towards the Jacksonville State game. Before we do, though, I want to give my really, really quick thoughts on this. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but it's taken the college football world by storm. And that is the comments from Dabo Swinney on his weekly call-in show, Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney, responding to Tyler from Spartanburg, a fan that called in. And I tell you guys, if you have not listened to the audio, we posted it on X last night, and guys, it's all over social media. You can find it anywhere. If you have not heard the audio, it's about 6 minutes long. It's a long listen, but it is well worth it. Highly entertaining. This guy, Tyler from Spartanburg, in case you have not heard, calls in. And man, he goes on this 3-minute rant, 2.5, 3-minute rant about how Dabo Swinney's making X amount of dollars and they're 4-4, and he's become prideful and arrogant, if you will, and is just like attacking Dabo Swinney, going one thing after another. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. And Dabo Swinney's response, folks, I mean, he goes in on this kid, goes in on him, breaking down, giving him a history lesson of all their successes and what they've done at Clemson and all that. And it's, again, the response is golden. And there's mixed reviews, right? There's mixed reactions from Gamecock fans, Clemson fans, and the college football world as a whole. Rivalry aside, right? Because that's what you have to do to be able to have an objective conversation about this. You can't look at this with your garnet shaded glasses, because if you do, everything that Dabo Swinney does is negative, right? You look at it as negative, because this exact situation, I know there's some Gamecock fans out there, not to name this specifically, John Edward Kruger, that look at what Dabo Swinney did and say, he's this, he's that, he's terrible, he's the worst. But if the shoe were on the other foot, if Shane Beamer did this, oh, he's defending his program, he's defending himself, what a legend, that's my head coach. So you can't have it both ways. You got to be completely objective. You're either one side or the other. So I look at this Dabo Swinney thing. Rivalry aside, I have no issues with what Tyler from Spartanburg called in and said. It's a call-in show for fans. You want to call in? You want to bring the heat? You want to ask the tough questions that the Big J journos, the media, what have you, they are either too scared to ask or just simply can't ask in fear that their access may get revoked? Hey, I applaud that. Welcome to America. This is a free country. You can say and ask anything you want. Freedom of speech. But I also don't have a problem with what Dabo said. I have no issues with Dabo Swinney's response. Because the same way that you've got the freedom to ask whatever you want, Dabo Swinney has the freedom to put you in a body bag. And that's exactly what he did. Now, I will say, similar to some of the things that Shane Beamer's done before, I think Dabo Swinney could do a better job in regards to talking to his fan base. You know, I know Clemson fans, they've been a little bit ruffled by it, the way he's spoken to the fan base, the 1.5%, this is what's wrong with Clemson. This is Clemson fans have changed. Like, he's come at the fan base a lot, which I don't think is ever a good idea. I don't think it's ever a good move because the fans are the reason you are getting the paycheck you are. The fans are the reason you're in the position that you are in. But at the same time, I have no issues with what Dabo Swinney said. I have no issues with his reaction because Dabo Swinney's a human being, like we all are. And even though he's in a position of power, even though he's making incredible money, $11 million a year to coach football, Dabo Swinney's a human being. And that was a very human response, I thought, from Dabo Swinney. Tyler from Spartanburg's got all the freedom in the world to call in and attack his integrity. He's prideful. He's overpaid. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. That's fine. And in a situation like that, typically you take the high road. You be the bigger man. And should Dabo Swinney have done that? Maybe so, because you don't gain anything from snapping back at someone. But at the same time, guys, it's whether you're a head football coach or not, it's just a human having a human reaction. That's how I see it. So I have no issue with Dabo Swinney putting that fan in his place. I'd have no issue if it was Shane Beamer or any other coach for that matter. Like, at some point, the commentary and the trolling, like to call into a call-in show like that and say some of those things, it's human nature to have that kind of reaction. And so I don't agree with everything Dabo Swinney says to his fan base and about his fan base. And, you know, it's you never want to create a divide between, let's say, you and your fan base, right? Like, you can almost hear it in what Dabo's saying, like, I'm going to coach 15 more years. I don't know if it's going to be here. Like, you can sort of tell that it almost feels like Spurrier at Florida, which, you know, he left Florida, I think part of it just because, like, nothing was good enough. You didn't win a national title or you didn't win the SEC. You had a bad season. I think that might be a reason why Clemson or Dabo leaves Clemson. It's like, I've done everything. Nothing's good enough anymore. I'm going to start a new challenge, go on a new adventure with a new group of people. I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. But for this specific situation, I have no issues with what Dabo Swinney said. I have no issues with the way he defended himself, the way he defended his program. And you want to call in and give your 2 cents and bring the heat, you're free to do that. But the person or entity, like, I think this is what happens. Tyler from Spartanburg is a representation of folks on social media. You know, they troll and they pick and they prod and they poke and they expect the party that they are trolling to say nothing, ever, to say nothing in return. Right? When you're in a position of power, of status, especially of financial status, for whatever reason, and this happens across all walks of life, normal people dehumanize very successful people, both in status and fortune, what have you. They dehumanize them. Oh, that athlete's making $60 million. I can say whatever I want, no matter how outlandish it is, and he has to take it because he's making X amount of dollars. Same things goes with college coaches. Oh, you're making $11 million. I should be able to say whatever I want to you, and you just got to sit there and take it, and that's it. And that's just not the case, guys. That's just not the case. What I heard was a human reaction from a human being who was being attacked in every form, fashion, what have you. And again, I'm no Clemson fan, far from it. But rivalry aside, I have no issues with what Dabo Swinney said. I have no issues with his response. Now, he needs to respond for them by winning games, the same way that I've said that Shane Beamer needs to respond by going out and getting good football players and winning games. Nothing you say in a call-in show or a presser or anything like that's going to make anything better. But it just goes to show, you want that smoke, you'll get it. If you want that smoke, you'll get it. And Dabo Swinney delivered it because he put Tyler from Spartanburg in a freaking body bag on that call-in show last night. Guys, that being said, that's going to wrap it up for that. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about it, a moment to address it, and give my 2 cents, if you will. I know that some of you may disagree. I'm sure there's many folks out there, the Gamecocks, that they're not going to be able to have any sort of objective conversation. I totally get that. They're not going to be able to have any objective conversation about it. But, it is what it is. Anyways, guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling here on this Tuesday. All that and more, you're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Watch your Dougie, ho. Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Tuesday, October the 31st, 2023. In case you missed it, what would a Gamecocks football season be without a TSUS DeCarrion Joyner tweet, controversy, or fallout, if you will? Apparently, I struck a nerve, and we're taking things really seriously because I said find some joy. There's absolutely zero joy in losing, and DeCarrion Joyner tweeted at me and said, STFU. So, I don't know. I must have struck a nerve, but I guess I'll go try to find some joy. I have no idea. That's what I'll be for Halloween, a joy finder. And if I find some, I will get back to you all. Either way, we're talking Gamecocks and JSU, comparing the rosters of the two. Who has the advantage at each position unit when the Gamecocks and Rich Rodriguez's Jacksonville State team do battle on Saturday afternoon? Guys, we start at the most important position on the football field. That is the quarterback position. And JSU, to say they've got an experienced player, is putting it likely. Their quarterback, guys, is that of Zion Webb. He is a seventh-year player out of Phoenix City, Alabama, the redshirt senior, 6'2", 200 pounds. And he's a dual threat guy. I would not say he's an elite thrower of the football by any means, but does enough for that offense to have success. I mean, he has just two touchdown passes. I believe actually 3. I don't think these stats are updated on the JSU website. Either way, not an elite thrower of the football. They've actually played multiple quarterbacks as well. It's been a 2-quarterback system at Jacksonville State. Logan Smothers is the other, the junior out of Muscle Shoals, Alabama, 6'2", 200 as well. I think he's the better of the two when it comes to throwing the football. 5 touchdown passes to his credit. Zion Webb, though, in his last game against FIU, ran for over 100 yards. Couple of touchdowns, if you will. He's really, really good with his legs. So the Gamecocks will have to account for that dual threat type of quarterback attack with Zion Webb, and I would expect them to see Logan Smothers as well, sort of a change of pace guy for JSU. Meanwhile, on the South Carolina side of things, of course, there is Spencer Rattler, the Gamecock signal caller, who, as bad as he's been on the road, right, inconsistent, not nearly as good at home, I do expect the results to be much, much improved because, again, you look at the home and road splits for Spencer Rattler. He's been a different player for whatever reason at Williams-Brice Stadium. Just been a completely different player for the Gamecocks at home. And I think he'll get back to that form, guys. Obviously, he's dealing with a offensive line that's held together by Scotch tape. He's dealing with injuries at wide receiver. He's dealing with an inconsistent run game to support him and all of that. And I still think you look at him based off what he has to work with. I still think he's one of the better signal callers, one of the best, I should say, in the SEC. So Jacksonville State with a wealth of experience. They're going to throw a couple of different guys at South Carolina, but I do think the Gamecocks have the advantage at the quarterback position. At the running backs, I give the nod to Jacksonville State. You look at their running game as a team. This is their bread and butter, averaging 211 yards per game on the ground. Their leader is a man named Malik Jackson, 5'10", 185 out of Lufkin, Texas. The redshirt senior leads this team, 577 rushing yards, 5.5 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns to his credit, 82.43 yards per game. Guys, I mentioned, by the way, the legs of Zion Webb. Get this. He is their second leading rusher, 335 total yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns to his credit. He averages 48 yards per game. Logan Smothers, another one. Anwar Lewis is their number 2 option, though, at running back, 5'8", 190. So they're a little bit smaller at the running back position, the redshirt junior out of Pensacola, but he's been really, really good for them, has a touchdown as well, 199 yards, 4.6 yards per carry. This is as close as it's been in quite some time in regards to comparing the running back position between South Carolina and an opponent, right? Because, for the Gamecocks dealing with what you're dealing with, you have Mario Anderson and then really no second option that you can depend on week in and week out. It hasn't been much of a conversation when you talk about comparing ball carriers between South Carolina and the opponent. Even though the numbers don't reflect it, I do love what Mario Anderson, what he's given this football team, the tough, hard-nosed running, having practically no offensive line to block for him. I think he's done a great job, all things considered. Unfortunately, South Carolina does not have a second punch. Juju McDowell hasn't done much. Dontavius Braswell hasn't been playing. And DeCarrion Joyner isn't really a running back and has just over 100 yards rushing to his credit this season. So you really do not have that second punch. You don't have that second option at the running back position. For that reason, I do give Jacksonville State the nod. I like their top-end talent a little bit more, and I like their depth significantly more. We move to the outside, guys, the wide receiver position. I do give the nod here to the Gamecocks. I give the nod to South Carolina. You look at Jacksonville State. Because they don't throw the ball that much, there really are no gaudy numbers from this group. Perry Carter is their leading receiver, 337 receiving yards, 16.85 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns. To Perry Carter's credit, their second leading receiver is Quentin Lane, who has just 182 yards receiving and 1 touchdown. So they got a couple of guys. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got 6 guys over 100 yards, 1 guy over 300. So, the depth is there. They've got some quality options, but I don't think it compares to South Carolina's. I think Xavier Legette, while he was not himself last weekend, I think he will be back full strength, full go. I like what you have still in Omega Blake, DeCarrion Joyner. He can also play wide receiver. Nicholas Harbor obviously stepping up and becoming more and more and more involved in the offense. So I like South Carolina's top-end talent more here, and I even think depth. I think the Gamecocks have got Jacksonville State, and I give them the nod at the wide receiver position. At the tight end spot, again, Jacksonville State really doesn't use their tight end position all that much. You look at the numbers, their leading tight end, let's see, their leading tight end, trying to find him here. I just had his name pulled up here. Sean Brown, leading tight end is Sean Brown. 6'5", 250, the redshirt junior out of Rome, Georgia. Just 13 catches, 171, and 2 touchdowns to his credit. So they've used him a little bit. Again, guys, this is not a strong passing attack. This is not a lethal passing offense. They do most of their damage in the rushing game. On the South Carolina side, you saw Trey Knox last weekend get a touchdown. We've seen more and more and more of Trey Knox, and he's become one of the top targets for South Carolina. I love the depth the Gamecocks have. I think they found a nice 1-2 punch with Knox and Simon. And for that reason, I do give South Carolina the nod when it comes to the battle at the tight end position. To the offensive line we go. And when you're talking about these different units and Jacksonville State stats or this versus South Carolina's, you do have to factor in the competition they face, right, on a week in, week out basis. You have to factor it. And so, you look at these numbers. Jacksonville State has done a much, much better job of protecting their quarterback. Only 12 sacks surrendered. And the running game is really good, as we mentioned, 211.1 yards per game. South Carolina surrendering 4 sacks against Texas A&M to bring their season total, I believe, to 35, I think is the number, 35 total sacks on this season. And the Gamecocks are one of the worst in the SEC at rushing offense. I know that the competition is different. I totally understand that. But as I've told you all before, and I'll say it yet again, I cannot, with any sort of confidence, pick the Gamecocks offensive line over anyone else's. I simply cannot do it. I give Jacksonville State their starting five up front the nod. You look at coming into the season, guys, they had 4 of their starting 5 offensive linemen returning. It's a veteran group. It's an experienced group in South Carolina with what they're dealing with the injuries and the issues up front. I got to give JSU the nod here. I would take their offensive line right now, unfortunately, over what South Carolina has to work with. Now, on that theme of comparing statistics, different levels, what have you, as we move to the other side of the football, the defensive line specifically, you look at Jacksonville State's numbers, guys. They've done a really good job of getting after the quarterback. 26 total sacks on this season. And they are led off the edge by 2 really, really good football players. And Chris Hardy and J-Rock Swain, both of those guys man the edges for JSU. Anthony Nesby, Jackson Latrette, they are on the interior defensive line. Per game, they've allowed 9 rushing touchdowns. And again, they get after the quarterback. You look at South Carolina, 16 sacks as a defense. And for all the things that have gone wrong for South Carolina, they've actually done a pretty decent job against the run. 140 yards per game allowed for the Gamecocks defense. I'm going to go with a push here between these 2 defensive lines because I do think you have to factor in the competition that each team is playing. I think you have to factor in who they're going up against on a weekly basis. And I do think South Carolina's front 7, specifically their front 4, while there's so much left to be desired against SEC competition, when you look at this Conference USA Jacksonville State defensive front and South Carolina's SEC defensive front, I say they're even. I think they're even right now. You look at the numbers, you do all the math, that spits out. I think this is a push between the South Carolina and the JSU defensive lines. Now, to the linebacker position we go, and the leader at the linebacker spot for Jacksonville State is none other than an Auburn transfer, Colby Fucow. I don't think I'm going to say his name correctly, but Colby Fucow is the name. And he's been really, really good for them, by the way. 51 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. From there, there's a bit of a drop-off. JSU does not have a ton of depth. You look at South Carolina. Dabo Williams has been flying around. He's certainly not perfect, but has been flying around all season. I think Stone Blanton's coming into his own. I think we're going to start seeing more Grayson Pup Howard. And last weekend against Texas A&M, you finally saw some of Jerron Willis and Bam Martin Scott. I think South Carolina's linebacking core is getting better as the season progresses. I think the linebacking core is improving as the season progresses. With that being said, I do give the South Carolina Gamecocks the nod at the linebacker position. I think, again, what Carolina has, then JSU, Fucow's a nice player for sure, the Auburn transfer, but not much beyond him. There's not a whole lot beyond him. Believe it or not, I do think South Carolina has more. I give them the nod at linebacker. We move to the secondary and defensive back. And Jacksonville State is actually susceptible through the air. 233 yards per game allowed. So there should be opportunities for Spencer Rattler and this passing attack to hit some big plays downfield all afternoon long. Should be plenty of opportunities. Meanwhile, I don't have to tell you guys much about the Gamecocks secondary, allowing 298 yards per game through the air. Again, you take into account the competition, you take into account what Jacksonville State has coming into the season. They return Jamari Jamison, Jeremiah Harris, both in their secondary, both leaders in the secondary for JSU. I'm going a push for the defensive backs. I know that sounds crazy. I totally get it. But if we're talking about sheer talent, I do think that South Carolina stacks up. And some of you may think this conversation's crazy because they're like, Chris, they're literally a Conference USA team. How do the Gamecocks not have the advantage at every single position unit? Well, that's just kind of where we are right now. That's where we are. So I go with a push here. I like South Carolina's, I think guys like Nick Emanwari, DQ Smith, I think you're going to see them play much better. Jelon Kilgore is one of the best players on this football team. And I do think JSU has a bit of a weak secondary. That's one that South Carolina should be able to expose in this football game. So I'm going with the push in the secondary. Now, we move to special teams, punter and kicker specifically. This one's interesting because many look at Kai Kroger and ask the question, what is wrong with Kai Kroger? What is going on with Kai? What happened? Did NIL get to his head? I heard something. Did he spend too much time working on his golf swing? Like all these things, these outrageous claims. If you look at the numbers, guys, Kai Kroger, he's not as good as he was last year. But the drop-off is not nearly as severe as some would make it sound. It's not nearly as severe, right? You then look at what Jacksonville State presents. They got a really good punter themselves, guys, averaging just a little bit less than Kai, around 42 yards per punt. He's down 15 punts inside the 20. They've had some inconsistencies at the kicker spot. Their kicker, I believe, is 9 of 14 on the season. Mitch Jeter, 10 of 12. He's been really, really good for the Gamecocks all throughout this season. I'm giving South Carolina the nod when it comes to punter and kicker because I'm just not buying into the complete and total demise of Kai Kroger. Has he had the – here's the thing. Kai Kroger hasn't been bad. He just hasn't been special. That's it. Kai Kroger – it's not that he's been bad. He just has not been special for South Carolina. And so many people can't understand why Kai Kroger hasn't been special. That being said, I do think the combination of Kai Kroger, Mitch Jeter is better than what Jacksonville State has. And for that reason, I give the Gamecocks, South Carolina Gamecocks, the nod at punter and kicker. And finally, guys, to the coaching side of things. Who has the advantage on the sidelines? Guys, I'm giving the nod to Jacksonville State, and I'm here to tell you why. It's not so much like a knock on Shane Beamer. It's really not. But it's a nod to a guy in Rich Rodriguez that has been doing this thing a long time. And he's won a lot of football games at a lot of different schools. This guy knows ball, coaches it well, wins where he goes. He's got Jacksonville State rolling, leading them into FBS, this being their first year at FBS. You look at his staff, his offensive coordinator's been with him for years. His defensive coordinator, by the way, here's a funny side note, is also a Clemson alum, a Clemson grad assistant, if you will. So he's assembled a good staff. And I look purely at Rich Rodriguez. I respect the tenure and the coaching prowess of a Rich Rodriguez. I'm not saying Shane Beamer's a bad coach by any means. I'm not trying to pile on because Carolina's 2-6. None of that. But you look at experience, and I think that means so much in the head coach's chair. I feel like that means so much, that experience, right? So on the coaching side of things, I do give Jacksonville State the nod ever so slightly. And as you can tell from these position unit comparisons, when it comes to Gamecocks and Gamecocks Saturday in Willie B, it should be a wildly entertaining contest this weekend. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll do our drive around the SEC and look at all of the upcoming SEC action. Ton of games, a loaded slate. We'll dive into that, and I'll lock in my predictions for the SEC games as well. Guys, all that and more on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie, ho, Dougie, ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Tuesday, October the 31st, 2023. Never a dull moment in Gamecock Nation. Never a dull moment in Gamecock Nation, no doubt. What a day. What a day indeed. Guys, we're going to keep it moving. A packed slate of games in the SEC goes far beyond Columbia. As I mentioned you guys last week, in case you missed it, we used to separate the drive around the SEC, the predictions. We now put that all together, our drive around the SEC, week 10. And we start in Oxford, Mississippi. Ole Miss taking on Texas A&M, a noon kickoff on ESPN. Guys, I teased this yesterday, but after watching Texas A&M against South Carolina, I'm not convinced that this is not a very mediocre, maybe they're an average team, maybe, but Texas A&M, they're boring offensively. Their offensive line stinks. They've got holes in their defense. It'll be all about A&M's defensive front. Can they get after Jackson Dart? Can they slow down Quinshon Judkins? That being said, I love Hottie Toddy to win. I don't know what the line is, but I take them to cover. I think Ole Miss is going to take Texas A&M to the woodshed. I don't think Texas A&M is a very good football team this year. I don't think so. I don't think they're a very good team. And so I take Ole Miss in this football game. I think they win, and I think they win by double digits as Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin's ball club continue to heat up to kick off the month of November. Tennessee taking on UConn. This game, a noon kick on SEC Network. Guys, should be a tune-up game for Tennessee. I think Tennessee will roll in this one. Expect to see some Nico. I think Nico gets in the second half at quarterback. I think he does some big things. I'm excited to see what this Tennessee offense will put together against the UConn Huskies, but I think Volunteers will roll. I don't think they have any issues in what I believe is going to be their final non-conference game of the Tennessee of the season. Take Tennessee big. Florida taking on Arkansas, a noon kick on ESPN2. The Hogs begin life without Dan Enos. This is a really dangerous Arkansas team, by the way. They come into this ball game, Florida coming off the tough loss to Georgia. What are they, right? Florida's been nothing but inconsistent. Win-loss. One moment you think Florida has turned a corner. The next moment it's like, are they ever going to win another game? And Arkansas, guys, they haven't won an SEC game all year. But they've still got KJ Jefferson. They've still got Rocket Sanders. No more Dan Enos, who I think was handcuffing them. Florida is going with the blackout uniforms, the blackout jerseys. I think Arkansas walks into Gainesville, gets their first SEC win in the swamp, and takes down the Florida Gators. Give me Arkansas winning straight up in this football game in a major upset. I think releasing Dan Enos, taking the handcuffs off, Arkansas will play with nothing to lose, and they will beat Florida in the swamp to get their first SEC win. We move to Athens, Georgia, taking on the Missouri Tigers, a 3:30 kick on CBS. I was really surprised to see the spread in this one open up at 16 points. That really, really surprised me. It really did. I'm not saying Mizzou's going to win. I'm actually picking Georgia in a football game. But, there was one team last year that really gave Missouri a tough fight gave Georgia a tough fight. That was the Missouri Tigers, right? For 55 minutes, 57 minutes of that game, they were, you could argue, the better team. They took it to Georgia, and Georgia found a way on the road in Como to pull it out. I think Georgia wins the football game, but I think it's much closer than the 16-point spread. I think Missouri has the physicality to match up with Georgia and make life difficult. I do think Carson Beck and company will keep the passing offense going, but I think this is a close back and forth game. I think it's a much better game than what we just saw Georgia play against Florida. Granted, you run the risk of, could Georgia flex their muscles and show everyone why they're the number one team in the country, why they're the best team in college football? Sure, maybe it could happen, but I see Missouri giving Georgia a tough game. I really do. I've got Georgia winning much closer, as Lee Corso would say, closer than the experts think in this one. Vanderbilt hosting the Auburn Tigers, a 4:00 kick on SEC Network. Auburn, of course, the favorite in this game. They come off the victory against Mississippi State. Peyton Thorne looked really good. They're getting things going at quarterback. Guys, you might recall over the summer, And over the summer, you're trying to pick upsets, right? And kind of get out ahead of it and pick expect the unexpected, pick something crazy to happen. So over the summer, I'll never forget, I posted the Vanderbilt schedule, the Vanderbilt schedule prediction graphic, whatever. And it had like 100,000 impressions. I'm like, man, this many people care about Vanderbilt football and my picks for Vandy? It wasn't Vandy fans. It was Auburn fans had gotten a hold of the Vanderbilt prediction graphic. They had gotten a hold of it because I picked Vandy over the summer to beat Auburn. And all conventional wisdom, looking at these two teams on the field, guys, like Auburn's a better football team. There's no question. Auburn is the pick in this game. But you know what? Just for fun, why not? Why not? You know what I mean? I'm sticking with my pick from over the summer. I'm going with Vanderbilt against all odds. Listen, you don't just waltz into Nashville in a 4:00 Eastern kick and get the W. You don't do it. You don't do it. I'm taking Vandy to beat Auburn straight up. I'm sticking with my pick over the summer. I'm sticking with my pick because you know what? Why not? Why not? The pick is on record. I already made the pick in the summer. We're going to roll with it. Upset pick of the weekend. Vandy takes down Auburn in Nashville. Kentucky traveling to Starkville to take on Mississippi State. This is a 7:30 kick on SEC Network. Kentucky desperately needs a win here. Desperately needs a win, right? Mississippi State, meanwhile, coming off the tough loss on the Plains. Devin Leary, can he build off that game he had against Tennessee? Right? And what's interesting, Mark Stoops has been bad against MSU. For whatever reason. They've just had his number. I think the Kentucky offense will continue to roll in this football game. I think because of the injuries to Mississippi State, are they going to have Will Rogers? Are they going to have Woody Marks? We simply don't know at this point. I do think Kentucky goes into Starkville. I think they get the big win. I think they take advantage of a Mississippi State team that's reeling right now. And I do think Kentucky will bounce back in a big way and get the victory. And finally, guys, the game of the weekend, not just in the SEC, but all of college football. Alabama will host the LSU Tigers, a 7:45 kick on CBS. I cannot wait for this one. This one's going to be a ton of fun, man. Jalen Milroe against that LSU defense that's been susceptible to the pass all year. You've got the front seven, though, of LSU with Harold Perkins and Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo. Then on the LSU side, you've got arguably the best offense in all of college football with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., Logan Diggs. It's just guy after guy after guy. And against that Bama front seven, this is the game. This is the game, right? Like, we spend all summer long trying to make predictions and this, that. Like, it all comes down, just like we thought it would, to LSU going to Alabama. And LSU got that big win last year, right? Was it 1 point in overtime? Huge win. Kind of symbolized what felt like a changing of the guard in the SEC West. So if LSU wins again, the chatter is going to be for real. LSU has struggled so mightily against Alabama, guys. I mean, they have, outside of 2019 and last year, LSU. And even with all that being said, guys, I'm picking LSU to go into Tuscaloosa. I know defense wins championships, but offense wins games. And LSU's got the offense. They've got the quarterback. I think Jaden Daniels has a heroic effort. I think LSU's defense does just enough. And I think LSU gets the win over Alabama in T-Town. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll open it up for questions in our daily mailbag, taking your questions, your comments, and your voicemails here on this Tuesday. All that and more, guys, on the other side. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also brought to you by our friends over at A1 Air Quality Consultants. Headaches, coughing, running nose while in the office or just in your home, call A1 Air Quality Consultants to have your air checked today. From Columbia to Asheville, Anderson to Charlotte, they are your breath of fresh air for all of your air quality needs. Be sure to give them a call or shoot them a text today at 864-619-2092. That's 864-619-2092. You can also contact them via email at a1airqualityconsultants@gmail.com. Be sure to check them out. We thank A1 Air Quality Consultants for their love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
Ladies and gents, boys and girls, we are back here on this Tuesday, October the 31st, the final day in the month of October. We'll close out the show with no breaks. We'll go 25 minutes straight, taking your questions, your comments, and your voicemails here on this Halloween. Happy Halloween. Appreciate each and every single one of you. So we got a lot of people tuned in right now. I appreciate that. When things get a little bit crazy on social media, it seems like the views go up. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and start and address this. So in case you guys have missed it in the last, hour, literally hour, things have gone wild on X. I posted a quote from Dakereon Joyner, right? Gamecocks football player. Dakereon Joyner, in his media availability, said this, quote, I told our guys this morning, despite our record, find some joy. We've got 4 more games together. We have 3 more Tuesday practices after today. Time is coming to an end after today. Enjoy being together. Okay. I quote tweeted that with this, quote, find some joy. There's absolutely zero joy in losing with a laughing emoji. Now, some people have, let me go ahead and get this out of the way. Some people have taken this as an attack on Dakereon Joyner. And while I understand that it's X, and it's Twitter, whatever, while I understand that it's social media and people can look at any post and they can spin it any way they want. That's why you can't take things personal, right, guys? Like, you know your true intent behind what you say. You say something, how the masses decide to consume it. They want to get pissed off. They want to get upset. That's not on you. That's not on me. And I understand where we're at right now in this football season. South Carolina is 2-6. The season has been nothing short of an immense failure, a cataclysmic failure, a disaster. Everybody's upset. Everybody's pissed off. And so I understand that when you're in the role that I'm in, when you're a TSUS, you sort of serve as the punching bag. People need somewhere to direct their hate. They need somewhere to direct their disdain, their distaste. And so TSUS is right there, right? And we're talking about the warts of the football team and the issues of the football team, and we're being very honest and blunt. And so it's very easy to say, you know what, screw that guy, because he's putting it right in my face, the thing that I don't want to talk about, which is how bad the football team is. But the comment, right, admittedly, guys, the phrase find some joy is a little bit triggering for me right now. It's sitting at 2-6. A little bit triggering. But I'd like to make it very clear. The repost where I captioned Dakereon Joyner's quote that I posted and said, find some joy, there's absolutely zero joy in losing, wasn't a shot at DK. I understand what DK was saying. I understand that he was saying that these are my brothers. Hey, we got 4 more home games. Keep your spirits high. Like, I totally get that. I have no issue with that. Like, you're right. You have 4 collegiate games left, hopefully 5, but you have for sure 4 left. Enjoy them. Enjoy them while you can, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll look back and say, man, what great times I had with my brothers. You won't really probably even worry about the result. So I don't think that post would have got much attention or much traction until Dakereon Joyner replies to TSUS, which I don't know how he saw the tweet because he doesn't follow me. I don't know if he was name searching or somebody sent it to him. I have no idea. Either way, Dakereon Joyner replies. And this reply right now has 42,000 views. 46,000 views and counting. He just says, STFU, shut the F up. And you know what? That's fine, guys. That's totally fine. The energy's not reciprocated, where it would come off as Dakereon Joyner dislikes me or dislikes the Spurs up show or what have you. Like, I understand everybody's on edge right now. Everybody's upset because we're 2-6 and we stink. And like, I totally get that. But I really just wanted to clarify, like, I stand by what I said. There is no joy in losing. The post, if the post was a shot at DK, I would have tagged him. It wasn't a shot at DK in the slightest. It was a comment of, I don't have any joy because South Carolina's not winning any games. Haven't won in forever. And so I have no issues with what Dakereon Joyner said. Freedom of speech, right? He say whatever he wants. No big deal. And I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he closes out the season on a high note, balls out. I would love nothing more to see his senior night, him score a couple of touchdowns and lead the Gamecocks to a win over Clemson. All the great things. Happy Dakereon Joyner's a Gamecock, all that good stuff. But it's just the point in the season we reached where everybody's on edge and everybody needs somebody to be mad at. And any little thing you say can be spun and created into like TSUS is attacking to Kerryon Joyner. And it's like it's the furthest thing from it. So I have no issue what the Kerryon Joyner said. When I see the phrase find some joy, I don't have a lot of joy right now. Not many of us do either. So I just, that's sort of it on that. I just want to address that, though, because I'm seeing people saying, wow, you're attacking to Kerryon. You're attacking to Kerryon. And then for people saying that, wow, the players don't like you. The Kerryon Joyner doesn't like you. There are plenty of players, guys, on the football team that do like me, rock with TSUS. Like we've had TSUS athletes, all that good stuff. There's some that don't, guys. I know that firsthand. There's some that hate the Spurs Up show. Outwardly, as you can see. And you know what? I said it after the Justin King stuff. I'll say it after this. I respect the Kerryon Joyner. I pull for the Kerryon Joyner, which is the weird part, that you have a guy like Dak Joyner who doesn't like me, that I pull for him to have success because his success is Carolina's success and Carolina's success is my success. But the entire team could hate me. Shane Beamer could. It's not going to change or affect anything I do. It's not. It really has no effect at all. And, again, man, I wish the Kerryon Joyner the best. I hope the season closes out well, but we'd just like to clarify. Many of you right now probably tuned in on X that you saw the tweet. You're like, what's he going to say? It wasn't an attack on the Kerryon Joyner at all. I just saw the quote, find some joy. And I'm like, there's no joy in losing. None at all. And I stand by that. There is no joy in losing. And I promise you guys, I'll do my very best to find some, but I doubt I'll find it until South Carolina wins a football game or two. So the fact that anybody would think that's an attack on the Kerryon Joyner or anything like that, of course, you got the Barstool Slapdick account promoting whatever they're peddling, about how dare you, the Barstool account, it's absurd, bro. 2 years from now, the guys running the account will love the Spurs Up show. 2 years later, they'll hate it. I have no idea anymore, but to peddle something like we're attacking a football player, attacking them because they want to be happy in their last 4 games, that's not even what I was saying. It really wasn't even a shot at Dak. It was more of just I have no joy right now because South Carolina can't win a football game. So that is the breakdown of that. That is the breakdown of that. And, it's just the season has gone completely off the rails. You got South Carolina football players attacking me. You got fans attacking me. You got South Carolina losing games, haven't won a game in what feels like a century, right? It's just a mess. So welcome to Gamecocks football 2023. Either way, guys, we'll close out the rest of the show, taking your questions, comments, calls. Let's see. Wiley, stop trying to make a living off being a Carolina hater. Fake fan, nothing but just clickbait for the dude. Well, Wiley, whatever I'm doing, it's working, man. Whatever I'm doing, it's working. So I give plenty of props, praise, positivity, but instead of listening to that and promoting that and recognizing that, you don't. The negative stuff's the only thing that gets clicks and generates views, and that's what people remember. That's the thing on the top of their head. But Wiley, whether it's negative, it's positive, it's indifferent, proof's in the pudding. Let's see. Will, choose joy. You were whining about a collegiate sports team maybe not winning games. Poor you. Well, Will, this is what we do for a living. We talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks. If you want the Sunshine Pumping podcast, the Garnet Glasses podcast, that one exists, but it's not this one. It's just not this one. It's not. So, Will, congrats on having the most followers of the Gamecocks fan pages. Like it or not, you represent Gamecock Nation. When you don't support the team, the players see that as fans not supporting. Will, I support the team by cutting on the TV every single Saturday and watching, or going to the games when I go, or what have you. So trust me, I plenty support, my guy. Plenty support. I nobody chooses the life of a Gamecock fan. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't have built a business around the Gamecocks if I was not a Gamecock fan. Chase Floyd. I have no joy in 2-6 myself. Neither do I. Gavin, Chris, I think you got to realize the tweet is up to interpretation, so you can see why some people take it that way. And Gavin, that's why I addressed it here on the show. So we will be clipping this, making this content, putting it up on YouTube. Folks will see that. And, we'll just go from there. So anyways. Getting into, let's see, we got a text here, actually, our good buddy Robbie Davis chiming in. His prediction for the game this weekend. Robbie Davis says, South Carolina 49, Jacksonville State 14 is what Robbie Davis is going with. Your friend, the Zaxby's Hall of Famer. Have a great rest of your week. Safe travels. Robbie, I appreciate you, my man. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Let's see. Ethan K. Rich Rod has some explosive offenses at West Virginia with Pat White, Steve Slayton, etc. Offensively, they could be much better than Texas A&M. Yeah, I mean, I think South Carolina is going to need to score some points. I absolutely do. I think South Carolina is going to need to score some points. There's no question. KX, we are 2-6. There isn't any joy, like you said. Will, Chase Floyd, I have joy. I'll be in Willie B and support the team, have a blast, win or lose, and be grateful I'm in a position to enjoy watching sports. I enjoy watching sports also, and I really don't. I mean, I'm grateful to do what I do, grateful to watch the games, but, losing sucks. It does. It does, and it's okay to say that. Lana White says, because no one likes you, bro, probably 99% of the fans hate you. I'm always entertained by this because, to say 99% of the fans hate TSUS, again, I would just say, look at the numbers. Like, where are they coming from? Are they all following because they're trolls or what? Like, if that is the case, then whatever, man. It is what it is. But the 99% of the fan base hates TSUS is always a really fun conversation because the math just ain't mathing. The math's not mathing. The math's just not mathing. Let's see. The TDC Questions channel's popping today, as is everything else. I mean, again, I did not call out DeCarrion Joyner and attack DeCarrion Joyner. I just, I see the phrase "find some joy," and I was just like, man, I don't have a lot of joy right now. I wasn't saying DeCarrion Joyner should be miserable because Carolina's 2-6, but I learned it last year, and it's just DeCarrion Joyner. Love the guy. There's not a football player you can talk about less. Like, it's talk about DeCarrion Joyner at your own risk, because if you say anything even slightly towing the edge of critical, like, you are going to get blasted by Gamecock Nation. That's the facts. I mean, learned it last year, relearned it this year. Again, man, it's not even remotely an attack. Come on, man. You're just reaching. I know you want to be pissed at somebody, but you're reaching. Come on. You're reaching. The Christian says, do you think the hardest football is behind us and we can win out? I think South Carolina absolutely can win out. Yes. I think it's possible. Yes. You think about the way the schedule sets up. You got Jacksonville State, who good Conference USA team, but if you're losing to Jacksonville State, like, we got a whole other set of issues. But you got Jacksonville State, right? Then you ramp up a little bit with Vandy. Then you ramp up a little bit more with the Kentucky. I mean, if you get Kentucky and Clemson at home at night, if you get those games at night, who knows? All bets are off. If you ask me right now, am I picking 4-0 in the last 4? I don't know that I can. I just don't. It's hard for me to pick the team that has won 2 games all year, hasn't won back-to-back games all season. It's hard to think of them winning 4 in a row. But, I mean, guys, if you win these next 2 and you've got some momentum and you got some things to feel good about and you're getting healthier going in the final 2 games, I think all bets are off, man. Again, South Carolina at home is just a different beast. They're a different animal. Will says, congrats on making good content. I disagree, but I'll still consider content. Will, that's all I can ask, Will. I mean, hey, agree to disagree. The beauty's in the banter. Again, I have no issues with DeCarrion Joyner, and him scoring touchdowns and us winning games will give me an immense amount of joy. So, I hope to see him ball out these final 4 games and South Carolina go 4-0. To Justin's point, damn, if 99% of the fan base hates TSUS, that's a big-ass 1%. Hunter Kelly, somebody has a fake profile of you and saying a lot of shit on Beamer's press conference, but not sure if it's you. Hunter Kelly, what do you think? What do you think, Hunter Kelly? What do you think? We have troll accounts out there, guys. We have all kinds of things out there, man. It is what it is. It's honestly, it is a compliment. It is flattering. Imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, and it just happens, man. It just happens. So I've had to address it once. I'm not going to do so again. I feel like at this point that most people, I would say mostly all people know that, you know, that, no, people know by now. Will says DK does nothing but be positive, score touchdowns, and give to charity. That's why he's so loved. And Will, I have no negative things to say about Dakereon Joyner. All I did all preseason was defend Dakereon Joyner and say that it's actually unfair what they're asking him to do. All I was positive about Dakereon Joyner for the last calendar year. And in this scenario, the quote tweet wasn't a shot at him. It was just there's no joy in losing. I don't have any joy. It's, again, man, I get it. It's the low-hanging fruit. It's the low-hanging fruit to attack TSUS and come at TSUS. I totally get it, man. It is what it is. It's the role I play. It's the role I play to a degree. And, hey, play your role, play it well. That's about it. So we're not going anywhere anytime soon, I can assure you. So, let's see. Oh, my God. Shane Beamer says, you would have thought we were playing for the freaking Super Bowl the way we practiced today. That comment's going to go. That comment's going to go well. That's for sure. Here we go, guys. We have a voicemail here. Let's go ahead and play this one. This one should give us all a laugh.
You're a fucking idiot.
Hey, one more time.
You're a fucking idiot.
Once more.
You're a fucking idiot.
Whoever you are, because you didn't have the stones to put your name behind it, thank you for that. We needed that laugh. Here we go. We'll keep it rolling. We got a couple of voicemails here.
Hey, what's up, Chris? I was wondering if you knew anything about the Braswell kid at running back. We haven't seen much of him against Furman. He seemed like he was a stud. You know, he didn't run but a few times, but he seemed just as good as Mario Anderson against Furman. Do you think we're going to redshirt the kid? I mean, do you think that's why he's not playing? Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Okay, Dontavius Braswell. I would imagine he's getting the red shirt, yes. I think if you're not playing by now, highly, highly unlikely that, highly unlikely he's going to see the field. So I would imagine Dontavius Braswell will more than likely catch the red shirt this year, which, was fine. I'm surprised he hasn't played more. I'm surprised a guy of his talent has not seen more of the field, but, it just kind of is what it is. Here we go. Let's see. We'll go ahead. We'll keep the conversation rolling with your questions. Let's see. A30, sure, we're 2-6, but to put the blame solely on Beamer and company is ridiculous. We've been plagued by injuries. Spencer has a D2 line blocking for him. Now he's throwing the backups. Yeah, I mean, their blame belongs everywhere. Everywhere you can think of. Everywhere. I mean, it's the roster. It's, it is what it is. Peyton Smith, like it or not, this is the best Gamecocks podcast and content source on the internet, period. TSUS till I die. Realness is a dying quality across platforms, and I cherish this one. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even remotely sorry for that tweet. I mean, it's people just want to lose their collective, what, and because Carolina's 2-6, they need somewhere to take out the frustration, and I totally get it, man. I totally get it. I understand. I get that. I totally get that. So everybody's a little bit sensitive right now. Everybody's on edge right now. But hey, I'll say this: find some joy. Find some joy. Bruce, maybe DK throws a touchdown to the Wildcat Saturday. That would be amazing. Would love to see it. Hopefully we see, I think we'll continue to see a lot of those in the red zone. I think the DK Joyner packages in the red zone will continue to be a really, really big thing. So, as they should be, because he's a touchdown machine in the red zone. So, And the way they used him against Texas A&M, that's exactly how he should be used this season. Guys, I mentioned no TDC Thursday or Friday. We'll be at the Growth Summit in Columbia, South Carolina, talking business. Cannot wait to share the entrepreneurial journey of TSUS and also network with tons of great entrepreneurs. I mean, really, guys, that's the thing is like the social media stuff and the freaking out on X and all. It's fun and all, but it's truly a footnote in what really matters. And that is the people that show love and support and have gotten TSUS to a point where we're going to an entrepreneurial conference and getting invited to talk about things relating to business and growth and expansion. And I'll be sharing, by the way, some details on future growth and expansion and things that I'll be doing, some business plans over the next 365 days or so. So really excited for that. And I'll probably be recording that. I definitely will be recording that and then publishing that to YouTube in long form. So if you're not there, you can watch that. Going to be a really good time on Thursday and Friday. Let's see. 8:30. Do you think the injuries excuse Clayton White? We saw the potential in the first quarter of the A&M game. I imagine it's hard to call a defense against SEC offenses with backups playing on defense. But see, I don't think you're that ravaged defensively, 8:30. I don't think you're that ravaged defensively. Do you? I mean, you've lost a couple of guys, but nowhere near what you've lost offensively. Like the offensive line is where you felt all these injuries. Would you? I mean, I don't excuse it. I just can't, man. I can't excuse it. It's been unacceptable, really, truly. I can't excuse it. So, I think Shane Beamer is going to have a tough decision. Not really. It shouldn't be all that tough of a decision, but he's going to have a decision end of season. And, we'll see what he does with it. But I don't know. I would say it's time to move on from Clayton White. That's what I would say. I would say it is time. It is time to move on from Clayton White. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it. Hey, appreciate you all. What a day. What a freaking day, man. The football season never fails to disappoint. We almost made it. We almost made it throughout the entire season without crazy drama, which this isn't that crazy, but it's just, I don't know, man. When you're 2-6 and joy can't be found, things like this happen, I suppose. Coach 4, Beamer says that I was targeting Dak. Where did he say that? Did he actually say that? No way. There's no way he name dropped the Spurs Up show. There's absolutely no way he name dropped the Spurs Up show or even mentioned that interaction on social media. Because again, there's just no way. By the way, one final voicemail, then we'll get out of here. Here we go.
Hey, Chris, this is James from North Charleston. Just calling to let you know you're a big piece of shit and fuck your show, pussy.
James from North Charleston representing. What a way to close it out, man. James, I love you too, my friend. God bless you. And I hope that your day gets better. Truly, genuinely. Guys, hey, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Gamecock fans, find some freaking joy, will you? We'll be back tomorrow, noon to 2, guys. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.